Welcome back, everybody, to Original Veterans. My name is Harrison. I'm here with our co-host.
Hey, Jackson.
Welcome back. It's been a while, Jackson, and I'm excited. New episode, episode 6. We have a lot to talk about and cover. But before we get into that, let's take a look at a quick recap of last episode. So we'll run this film real fast. I had a good roommate, and
Yeah,
the barracks can be rowdy, especially when you're young and you're new, you're meeting people. Friday night, Saturday night, a lot of people don't go out. They stay in the barracks and they play cards and they shoot dice and they drink and they listen to music. It's like a little party in the
it
barracks.
is. I would say that it was probably a big culture shock of like, wow, okay, being looking at it back at it now, you think of like, man, nothing wrong with frat boys or anything, but it was literally a frat party almost every weekend. Because why? Hardly any of us had cars, right?
That's true.
Why? So I would say reporting to work was probably, in Fort Stewart. It's really uh, very, I wouldn't say routine, but it's monotonous every single day. Okay, even though we have formation first thing at 06:30, I was expected to be there by 6, so we can have accountability and everything 6:15 in order to be ready by 6:30 for Reveille. So how Fort Stewart works is that every day at 6:30, no matter what, even on the weekends, you if you're outside at 6:30 and you get caught on there, you're expected to get out of your car and salute the flag, right?
Yeah.
We have to sing the Dog Face Soldier song every morning.
This is our journey, our story, but we want to hear from other veterans, their journey and their story. And let me get into the mission statement, 'cause I think right now is a good
Yes.
segue to talk about that our mission is to engage with veterans in the community and create an open outlet for discussion and the shared experiences that come with it, right? With your fellow battle buddies. And what that does is create fellowship and strengthen bonds, which, enhances the mental health and the overall well-being. And I think we could both agree, Jackson, since you and I started these videos, it's definitely bringing up memories and the fellowship, and I think it's helpful.
Yeah, definitely. Most of the times when you first get out of the military, you have this like almost buyer's remorse, right? You miss the people, but you don't miss the BS, right?
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, you have done something that most Americans have never experienced, and we don't get to share our story too much to the public because we don't have that similar experience. And that's why I cherish these moments that I get to share it with you and the audience about our experience, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm sure there's thousands of veterans that would love to just talk about their journey, their own experiences, because there's good ones, there's funny stories,
Mm.
there's interesting things that they saw, places they've been to, people that they met. That I think that's the biggest thing is meeting people and somehow, some way, maybe they helped you or you helped them. Especially if you're a career soldier and you got to mentor some of these young soldiers. I think that's really important. So this is a place to talk about it and have a discussion.
Yeah, no, I totally agree because um, most of the soldiers that uh, they might not have had a great career, or time in the military, but if you think in the back of your mind is that yes, that one experience may had changed my whole outcome in the military, right? Um, I had bad days. You had bad days, but
Yeah.
my good days outnumbers all of my bad days. And I remind myself that all the time is that, military was definitely um, a life changing decision, but
Yeah.
I'm glad the path that we went through, you know, has shaped where we are today.
Yeah, life changing is a good way to put it. I think there's a lot of members in the military or veterans that joined for different reasons, but I think when it came down to it, it impacted their life somehow, right? Either
Hmm.
through just maturing at a young age, seeing the world, learning a skill, leaving their hometown and living independently. Those are all some of the things that the military gives you when you sign up. And then, of course, there's more that goes with it. But
Yeah, yeah,
um, this episode, we actually want to continue on from our story and the preparation
yeah.
of
No, I think what we talked about last episode about how we felt when we first got to our first duty station, and how young we were, and being able to just I, being free from the rigors of basic training, right? We were kind of free to explore our own desires at that time, right? But now, you know what we do in the military is not almost every single service member that goes through. They're not preparing for uh, constant deployments or something like that, right? So I think when we first enlisted, um, we knew that there was two wars going on. We had Afghanistan going on at the time already, a couple of years strong, and then we had Iraq that was just happening within the past couple of years. Remember, this is about
Mhm.
2004, 2005 time frame, right?
Yeah.
So at that time, Army, many Americans had already deployed, right, and came back.
Hmm.
So I think that's what we want to talk about today is our first deployment,
Yeah, and the
right?
preparation to it. So you mentioned first duty statement. So where we left off is I was in Fort Drum. Jackson was in what, Fort Stewart.
Mm-hmm.
So those were our first duty stations, and of course, we were given notice, and you kind of knew already that, hey, by the way, we're going to deploy on such and such date. And there's a lot of preparation that goes with that, not just your training on the military side, but also your personal, right? Your planning, because some people have families, some
Mm-hmm.
people have vehicles or
Mm-hmm.
other things, other items they have to address before the military sends them off. So we're going
Yeah.
to talk about
You
that.
know, yeah, and when people think like, oh, I'm gonna get to my duty station and deploy and stuff like that. Okay, it sounds easy, but there's many other steps involved when you are preparing not just an individual, but a whole unit to
Yeah.
deploy to a certain area. I think again, great point is that when we left basic training at AIT, we knew exactly what units were rapid deploying, and when we found
Mhm.
out where we were going, hey, you already have that in the back of your mind. You just didn't know exactly what date at that time yet, right? So
Yeah.
I guess
That's
let's
that's
talk
a good
about
point.
initial reaction. Let's talk about initial
Initial
reaction.
reaction. All right.
So
Well, yeah.
when you got to your first duty station, I guess how did you find out, um, and how did you react to that?
Well, initial reaction. So for me, it kind of was not such a big shock because I kind of had in my mind. prepared before I even joined the military was that I'm going to deploy at some point. So I kind of already knew it was coming. But when I did get to my first duty station, I believe maybe December of 2005,
Mm-hmm.
I was home for Christmas and then I went back. So early January of 2006 is when I met with my first sergeant. And mind you, I'm new. I've only been there a couple weeks. So I just like in process and got my room situation, my mailing address. I'm still transitioning new as a soldier, like trying to learn the ways of being a private and reporting and waking up, the whole structure to PT. Um, so to find out, by the way, welcome, nice to meet you, but we're going to go to Afghanistan very soon. So I was ready, and I told my first sergeant, that's why I'm here. I want to deploy. I'm somebody that wants to have that experience. And, the unit was already preparing this well before I got there, so they knew about it. And
Yeah.
they were going through their training, and I was a new soldier, so I had to, you know, um, qualify my weapon and do the medical part. But yeah, the initial shock was kind of excitement. Like I was ready. I
Okay.
want to go because in January in Fort Drum, there's a lot of snow and there's not a lot to do. So to get out of there is kind of exciting and fun. So
Services was.
yeah,
So we have to make sure our tanks are ready for a major exercise. Well, major exercises are going to JRTC or going to NTC, right? So did
yeah,
that.
that's a good point because I didn't actually get to experience that amount of preparation. I think, of course, my unit did, but since I kind of was late to the party, it
Mm-hmm.
was more of a welcome
Mm-hmm.
and the qualify, and there were no field exercises for me. It was just like get ready, and you'll find out more soon.
Yep.
And I'm how old was I? 20. I was
Mm-hmm.
only 20 at that time. I think I had my 21st birthday right before I left, and I didn't have much. Thankfully, I didn't have any like personal belongings. I just had what was in my duffel bag, some clothes. I didn't have any electronics really. Like some soldiers, they got a whole room set up with
Yep.
TVs and
Yep.
vehicles. And, they told me don't buy a car because we're about to leave.
Yep.
And
Same thing.
so, yeah, I was just kind of living out of my bag. And, you got some medical stuff you got to do. There's some life insurance,
Yep.
paperwork. And, me being a single soldier with no kids, I think it was easier for me because of that. I wasn't married and had no children. So I was able just to go with the flow and do what I was told.
Yeah. So I think after we came back from another month of exercise, which was in um, uh, Fort Polk, Louisiana, our first major exercise. And that's where it kind of calmed down for us. And we were already prepping. This is already October, November timeframe, and we were already preparing our tanks to be shipped out, all of our stuff that we need to ship out and everything. And now, once we have already prepped all of this stuff to be put on a boat and
Mhm.
go to our destination, now we have to prepare for what is called, soldier preparation, so that we got it, or SRP, soldier readiness, something. I forgot what SRP stands. Oh, processing. So
Okay.
basically, is exactly what you talked about. Is that a whole bunch of things that has to happen to make sure that the soldier is ready to deploy. Now, we are 18, 20 years old, right? These are things that we were not used to, right? I think the first thing that really popped in my head as an 18-year-old was, hey, you got to go ahead and do this will, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, man, what
You got
the
to put
heck is
somebody
this?
down, huh? You got to put
Yeah, and
somebody
then
down.
yeah, you got to do your will, you got to do your life insurance, right? It's all new to us as I guess, a young adult, right? And those were the kind of things that we were not prepared for at that time. And that, I think that was probably like almost like shocking to me as a young kid, a teenager. And it kind of hits you for real at that point. You're like, man, I'm actually filling out a will at this early stage of my life.
Yeah, and life insurance beneficiaries, you got to put somebody down. Um, some people they've yet to open a bank account. How am I
Oh
going
yeah.
to get paid while I'm gone? So lots of things like that. And then for us, we had cell phones at that point, but it wasn't like today's standards of cell phones and network connection, right? The phones were
Well,
in the early 2000s was still the quality of the camera was not great, and I don't even think it was 3G, right? It might have been 2G or
I still had,
3G.
dude, I still had my Nokia from high school that I used for my phone. These are the kind of things that were, oh man, it makes us sound really old, right?
Well, I got a calling card. I had a
Yeah,
phone, but it's expensive international calls.
yeah,
Yeah, I remember buying a calling card so I could use the payphone.
yeah. So like things like that we didn't know about. But the cell phones, right now there's a lot of good protection for soldiers, airmen, all service members have very, very good coverage on any type of services. So if we have like today, right, today
Mhm.
in this day and age, if a soldier is deployed and they have a car payment, if they have a cell phone bill, if they have certain bills and all that stuff, and they deploy, certain things are deferred. Well, you're going to still pay
Mhm.
for your car payment, but they're going to knock away the interest and all of this stuff. But then if you have a cell phone bill, you put it on lockdown for up to 2 years and then so on and so forth. But remember, when we were there, it was brand new, and a lot of services did not have that type of service at that time,
Yeah.
right? So I think I had like maybe AT&T when I first joined, and I had to pay a cancellation fee because I was deploying.
Yeah, I remember my cell phone did not have great service or any service once I flew international. And even if you did get service, it was a different rate to call. And I had, and mind you, this is back in the day where payphones are still everywhere. So I had asked somebody to mail me a calling card so I could use the phone. But yeah, the preparation is different now. And, when we went through it, that was part of our preparation. And I was just thinking my preparation in Fort Drum, since I was a signal MOS, we did have a lot of training and preparation on, the radio communications. And one of our assignments was to deploy and maintain like a sort of satellite communication system. So we had to get trained on that. It was called a VSAT. It's like a very
Hmm.
small aperture terminal. And
Hmm.
basically what it does is it gets you network access from anywhere in the world. You set up a small dish and you
Hmm.
hook up all your networking and phones and whatnot to it anywhere. So going to Afghanistan, that was a big part of how we communicated, with the FOB, the base. So that kind of training I had to go through in preparation for deployment.
Yeah, yeah. And, with, our cell phones, trying to cut it off and all of that stuff,
Mm.
a lot of things for us as young soldiers, we didn't know what else there was. I mean, we had soldiers with cars, we had soldiers with, their barracks rooms were already filled to the brim with like TVs and stuff, right? And, TVs weren't like flat screens, those were those big
The
old
big
heavy
one.
TVs.
And some people
So,
had leases on their apartment, on a
yeah,
house
yeah.
that they had to get out of. So it's a lot of paperwork.
But to your point is that, we were, single soldiers living in barracks. We didn't have very much, but the ones that were married, had cars and all of that stuff, they couldn't
Hmm.
just leave it there at the barracks. You have blocks on them or getting towed by the MPs or something like that. So the military, what they do is if you do have a vehicle, a single soldier, you have nobody to take care of your car, well, they put it in storage, all your personal belongings, because you're not going to bring too much personal items with you to a combat zone. right? Was it the same for you?
Yeah, very limited. And you have to remember that the more you pack is extra weight on your back. So you're already packing a rucksack and two duffels, a weapon, a lot of gear. So if you add another bag of shit, I mean, it's a lot. You got to carry
Yeah.
that from the bus to the airport,
Oh yeah.
back off and on. And trust me, by the time you land after a 12, 16-hour flight and you got to get all your crap off, you're on minimal sleep, right? You're
Yeah.
not sleeping on the plane, maybe, but so anything that you take, you got to carry with you into your final destination. That's
So
kind of
okay, that brings an interesting question for the viewers, right? What do you think, or what did you bring, or what kind of things do you
oh,
suggest to bring with you as a personal item to a
yeah.
deployment? What do you think?
Well, if I'm thinking our era or even now, I think most people would want a phone, definitely a phone or a camera. Probably something that they have to have, right? Phone for sure.
Okay, now let me ask you this: what did you bring? Because all we had for a personal item was our assault pack. That's all we had as a personal item. What did you bring in your assault pack?
One thing that I had to have for sure was flip-flops, a pillow, my phone. Definitely, I had to have my toothbrush and toothpaste. Like I gotta be able to brush my teeth whenever I want. I don't want to pack that stuff away at the bottom of a bag, man. So I didn't
Yeah,
bring a whole lot. But I did think of flip-flops for the shower because like I don't know where I'm gonna shower at. Like a lot of people forgot their flip-flops, man. They want to borrow yours. And
yeah,
hey,
that's
man,
nasty.
I was like, dude, well, you didn't think about sandals and showers? Like you got to think about that.
I think that probably was my hard lesson, my first field problem. I didn't bring shower shoes, and that was probably the one and only time that I didn't have shower shoes. I mean, shoot, we go to the PX; those things are 99 cents. Shoot, I bought a new pair every time we went to the
The little
field.
black ones, the little
Yeah,
foam ones that got squished down. It's like a thin pancake.
yeah,
Those are the cheapest sandals, man.
yeah. But you know what? They come in clutch, right?
They do.
But
So I would
I,
recommend to any soldier, think about these things when you're packing your bag.
yeah.
Personal
So
hygiene, a
yep.
pillow.
So I had, when we during our era, our assault bag was literally our personal bag, and what I had in there had to last me for at least, I would say, a couple of days, at least like 3 or 4 days, right? So I always had to change two changes of underwear, at least another T-shirt, right? Personal
Yeah.
hygiene items. I didn't have a pillow because all I did was just use my assault bag or something else or a jacket, whatever to
Hmm.
use as a pillow. And then I had my laptop that I spent hella money at that time. Back in the mid 2000s, laptops were like still $2,000, right?
And they're big and heavy too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So I had that. And then I always had my camera everywhere I went. I always had my camera. And of course, I had a couple of Maximum magazines.
Oh yeah, the
Yep.
magazines.
So I could just
That's right.
read and stuff like that. One of the hot items at that time was the original Nintendo DS. I had one of those, and
Hmm.
that was it for my assault bag that we carried. But I guess that is a very good point, is that having that personal hygiene items ready available with you so that you can just get up and go, right? I guess that brings up to another point, is on deployment day, right? When most
Um,
people think that, like, you know, they have their assault bag or their rucksacks, and then, their weapon and everything, they're walking towards a C-130 or or a military aircraft. What was it like for you?
I'm just thinking of once all your crap is packed up and you're given the orders of, be here at this time, which is probably like, the motor pool or some big place where everybody brings all their gear. You got to carry down duffel bags and you got to take everything down by yourself. Like everybody's bringing stuff in the barracks. You
Yeah,
might be on the second or third floor and you might
yeah,
have to do like 1 or 2 trips. So you got to bring all this crap down and make piles. You got to make sure it's labeled and your name's on it. And then you're hurry up and
your battle
waiting
roster
for,
number.
yeah, you're waiting for your sergeant to take, they got to take accountability for everybody and check your bags, and
I
then you got
forgot
to wait for
about that.
command staff. It's a whole
Man,
waiting situation before you
it
even get on this bus to load up the bus and then to unload the bus. It's just
I thank you for reminding me that because I think our first formation call was like 6 in the morning, right?
yeah, super
And
early.
but I mean, even before that, I mean, I was a single soldier. I got there really early because I couldn't sleep that night, and we had to make sure the barracks were cleaned before we left because we're going to be gone, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it is a hassle, and that's crazy. I totally forgot about
Just
that,
everything
Brandon.
has got to be cleared out. You're just waiting for hours and hours, and then I think you had to get your weapons, so you got to go through the
Yep,
armory, and you know
yep,
how a bunch of pain in the ass that is. That's hours by itself. To then get on this bus to take you to the nearest airport, and depending where you're at, it might not be so close, but it's just a long day. I mean, you're gonna sleep wherever you can, and eventually you'll get to the airport, and it's a whole another journey of getting your stuff and getting formed up and walking through, right? Let's talk about the airport walking through with everybody has M16s and different weapons, and you're thinking like this is kind of badass, you're like you're in your full gear and you got your weapon, and I thought people would be kind of freaked out when there's hundreds of soldiers coming through, but if I remember right, it seemed like nobody cared. It was kind of just like business as usual. Maybe people got used to it because
yeah,
the deployment was so people were always coming and going at that point.
yeah. So what you're saying is you guys went to a commercial airport in where you're at, right?
Yeah, so I don't recall the closest airport near Fort Drum. I mean, Syracuse was the closest big city,
Hmm.
so it might have been Syracuse.
So similar to mine, yes. It was a long day, and I don't even think I just remember is that I was the youngest private, and I had to get all the bags onto the LMTV or into the box truck, right? And
Oh,
then, so I was on baggage detail for that part. And then once we had an army airfield, so it was about like 45 minutes away, but drawing our weapons and then waiting, because it's not just drawing your weapons. You're drawing your weapons. We had to draw our night vision goggles.
oh
We
yeah.
had to, certain people had to draw, heavy machine guns, right? And
Hmm.
then 9 mil. So it's basically clearing out the whole armor so that there's nothing left, right? Everybody has an assigned weapon and all of the stuff that we're carrying. This is already extra, uh, 50, 60 pounds that we're carrying on top of our other items, right?
Yeah.
So, but we get to the Army airfield and then download it from the box truck or LMTV and then putting it underneath the commercial airplane, right? When we say commercial airplane, most of you didn't know this, but the military contracts commercial airliners, and it's fully staffed by civilians with stewardess, civilian pilot, and all of this other stuff. And it is a regular looking airliner,
Yeah,
right?
it's like a regular like Delta Air or
Yep.
some regular.
Yeah. And then, going through like a TSA check because they had to check. We didn't have to open bags or anything, but they did have custom and borders. Dogs sniff through all the bags and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and we each of us has to get weighed. And then I'm like, man, this is crazy that we have to go through this type of security. And then, but we have our ammo. I mean, we have our weapon system with us getting on this plane, right? So it is definitely something that I did not enjoy at all. It was just a long, long
I
day,
think
and
that
I
was like
think
the
our
whole
plane
day,
left
right?
until the night. Yeah, I don't even
Yeah.
think our plane left until like maybe like 8 o'clock that night.
Yeah.
It's a
And that's when you
long day.
and that's when you finally by then you're tired, and I don't remember eating or if it was just like eat when you can, like an MRE.
Yep,
I don't
yep,
even remember eating, but you're just nonstop because they're not gonna wait. It's not like all right, guys, take lunch and be back here in an hour. no, you're nonstop. We got to go here. We got to do this. So people just, they had snacks in their bag. They had peanuts and, their big jug of water, and you kind of just snack when you could. And
Yeah,
once you got on the plane, then you had a long flight, right? I mean, for me to fly out from New York, there was no other, layover. It was just you're going over the ocean at that point, and you got at least 10 hours before you
yeah,
get to Ireland or some other place.
yeah. So for us, we did from Fort Stewart, Georgia, to I think somewhere in Bangor, Maine, or something like that. Somewhere up there, or Connecticut, and to refuel real quick. I think it was like 45 minutes, and then went to Frankfurt, Germany. That was a longer layover. I think we were there for like about maybe 5 6 hours. So it was a good stretch for us. And but you don't just leave the terminal. You're in a secured area that you cannot leave at all.
Yeah.
But you at least got to stretch out a little bit, attempt to make a payphone call, but you have no idea how much money a euro is, or franc, or whatever it was.
And you had to dial like
Um,
a special number too. It was
yeah,
like
yeah,
not just your 916 number. It was like a whole string of
yeah,
prefixes.
yeah. And I didn't know any of that. I was like, I don't know how to contact anybody from back home. So it was a very surreal experience, but it was a long trip. So after we got our stretch and everything, got back on the plane, I had accountability, make sure everybody's back on the plane, right?
Yeah, you got to count everybody again.
Yeah, yeah. Or like, hey, count from rear to front, and that get messed up and stuff like that.
Somebody always jacked it up. You had to start over. Like, God damn it, private.
I think that was the hardest thing to do in the military, counting from back to front. But and then we get back on the plane, go from Frankfurt, Germany, all the way down to Kuwait. That's where our staging area is. But for you, where was your staging area?
I believe it was Kazakhstan when I went to
Mm-hmm.
Afghanistan. I think that's where we stopped to refuel, and I don't even know how long I was there. It didn't feel like long, maybe a couple of days,
Mm-hmm.
1 or 2 days, just for because there's more than one plane, right? You're not just taking one plane. There's other planes kind of coming. Um, and then from there, I think it was from there. It was a military
Yeah,
aircraft.
yeah, it is.
That's when we got on like a big cargo C-130 or some other
Mm-hmm.
Galaxy or something, and you're nuts to butts and uncomfortable seating. And then the real adventure kind of begins, right? I think that's when it feels real, is when you get on that kind of plane.
Yeah, and I think for our staging area in Kuwait was longer. So we got there. We flew out January like 5th, 2005, and we landed in Kuwait, and it was freezing
No.
in Kuwait. I didn't know. I was expecting kind of warm weather, but no, it was freezing. And, uh, from the Kuwait International Airport, we had another 4 hour bus ride from the airport to the middle of nowhere
Yeah.
in one of the camps. And these are not like what soldiers experience today, like Camp Arif John, Ali Asaleen, and all of those other places, right? These were bare bone in the middle of the desert, old school Camp New York, Camp Pennsylvania, Camp New Jersey. These were just straight up GP mediums in the middle of the desert. I don't know how your experience was when you got to your staging area.
After Kazakhstan and landing in Afghanistan?
No, no, no.
Is that what you mean, or the staging
Afghanistan,
area?
how was no in the staging area in
Yeah, it was
Pakistan?
like it was the green tents and muddy. It was cold and
Oh
raining. It
yeah,
was muddy. Generators everywhere. I mean, it's just nothing but generators and some kind of defect. I mean, nothing was. I mean, if you, Kazakhstan's one of those countries that they're not known for much, right? I mean, it's not like this modern place. It was just the middle of nowhere, green tents. You can't wait to get out of there and take a hot shower. And I don't even remember taking a shower there. I think we just kind of hurry up and left. But
You
yeah,
know
yeah. I mean, it
what?
was a good experience though. Like it felt real, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And we were there for a long time in Kuwait. I think we were there for about 2 weeks. But you got to remember, just a month prior, we qualified with our weapons back at home station, right?
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden, we get to Kuwait, and those 2 weeks are filled with qualifications again. So we're qualifying with our personal weapons again. Our tanks all the way from Fort Stewart made its way to Kuwait. So we're taking our tanks off the ships and we have to go qualify again, right? And I'm
Yeah.
just like, holy cow, man. We just did this literally like 3 months ago. We have to do
Hmm.
it all over again.
Yeah.
So it was just repetitive, nonstop, every single day, just moving, moving, moving.
Yeah. I thankfully I didn't have to go through all that. I think it was more of a situation of sleeping in a cot and trying to get something to eat, no additional qualification, just pack up all your crap again and get on this plane and fly out. So, but yeah, you're right. Yeah, qualifying over and over again, it could definitely be stressful and because it's not easy just to qualify, right? It's a whole process to even show up to the range. No, the range is never fun. I always hate it because the process to get there and to leave,
Yeah.
to clean your weapon, and check it back in. That's hours on top of the range, and you just spent a couple hours at the range, so
Yeah.
it's a lot of work.
The crazy thing I told you is that when we got off the plane, it was freezing, right? Well, guess what? I didn't have in my assault bag that was readily available. My Gore-Tex or any type of snivel gear. So I was freezing in our desert camo uniform.
Mm.
Yeah, we were just cold and wet, muddy, living in a GP medium, intense,
Oh
and
man.
the showers were at least like half a mile away. So it was just I was like, man, this is the army.
Yeah, you're really roughing it, and
Yeah,
thankfully I had some cold weather gear. One of my favorites was like that. I don't know if you guys had the green, like really soft, is like turtleneck zip up with
yeah,
the
yeah,
patches. Those
yeah,
things are so comfortable, and then they have the
yeah.
black ones too.
Mm-hmm.
Those things are
Yeah.
great. You can just sleep in that.
Yeah, I actually still have my black one, and actually I have all three of my other. I've been through a number of different uniform changes throughout my career, but I have my black one, my ACU color one, and my Coyote tan one.
I still got my sleeping bag.
Yeah.
I got that. The three
So
layers.
yeah. So you said that once you left your staging area, you guys got on a C-130, and then you flew right into your final
Yeah.
destination. What was
Yeah,
your?
I think we flew straight into Bagram.
Is that where you guys stayed?
Yeah, that's where 10th Mountain was headquartered, Bagram Airfield, and there's a whole complex at Bagram.
Uh
But
huh.
even then was, get off the plane and we went to it was like in the dead of night. We went to some location where we thought this was our tent. So people were unpacking, getting ready to go to sleep finally, and some sergeant so and so comes in and is like, all right, we gotta move. And you had to get all your crap and carry it to another tent like half a mile away. So, even getting to your final destination, there's still in processing, right? There's
Yeah.
still accountability. There's where's the chow hall, where's the showers, so your final destination does still take time, just like a duty station.
Yeah.
You got to process in and learn where to go and where's my headquarters, where do I report, and you got to have a battle buddy with you, right, at all times.
Yeah.
So it's a lot that goes into it. And what about you, Jackson? Your final?
So it was very interesting. Um, we did not take did not take a C-130 in my first tour. So what we did was, once we gather all of our tanks, we just had already qualified with our tanks again. So sights were good, everything, our computer system worked and everything on our tanks. And we started drawing ammo for the tanks, right? So the big 120 millimeter rounds. And once we were combat loaded, meaning we have our 50 cal ammo, we have our 240 ammo, we have our 5.56, everybody's packed to the brim in our tanks, right? The thing about being a tanker is that it's like our RV. So we can make our RV livable, right?
Yeah.
And so I was the loader, and fortunately, we had to get on a het. You know, those big old semi trucks that the Army has?
Hmm. Yeah.
So the hets are able to carry one Abrams tank.
Damn.
So
That's a lot of weight.
we drove on to the het, and the het would drive both us from Kuwait all the way to Baghdad, which was a 3-day trip.
Damn.
And it was a long, long convoy. You got to remember, there's like, I have a picture of us. Actually, hold on. Let me share something with you, because I hold this near and dear to me. This is a picture of me crossing into Iraq. See all them tanks?
Yeah. Nice. Yep.
That's me right there with my hands up.
That's cool.
Yep. So that's my one and only picture of us crossing over to Iraq. And that's why I hold it near and dear to me, because I was very surprised that I actually found it. But yeah, we slept on the tank. All four of us were inside, my whole crew. I was the loader slash DJ. So we didn't have CD. I mean, MP3 players, but we did have CDs, right?
Yeah.
So I would, like, whenever somebody like requests a song, I'd go ahead and start looking in the book and put in the song so all of us can hear it, because we have our CDCs on.
Yeah.
So it took 3 days to get to Baghdad. And when we got there, again, we got there probably pretty early, like around 10 in the morning. But we don't just get off the tank and then, go to sleep. No, we still had to download all of our stuff from our tank and move it from the motor pool all the way up to our actual buildings that we were going to stay in. And yeah, it was a very long day. I don't think we actually closed up and got settled until like maybe after like 1 or 2 in the morning.
Yeah. It's a lot of work to
Yeah, it was
get
a lot of work.
to get from your duty station all the way through to your destination. And I mean, we talked about it. It took us about 40 minutes just to talk about that process. But in reality, it's days and days and
Weeks.
weeks. There's a lot of stress, there's emotions, it's a lot of confusion at times. And for a young private, that's a lot to take in. And this is really where the military is great, because you have some really good NCOs that they do a great job of policing and taking, charge of their team and making sure that their team is good, making sure that they're eating and staying hydrated and nobody's getting lost. The NCO is, the backbone of the military, no matter what branch you're in, right? So
Yeah.
the NCOs make the world go around. And, thankfully for them, that they helped us get from our duty station to our first deployment, where we're at right now. And we're going to wrap it up this segment, because what I think is for the next episode, we'll kind of get more into the deployment side, right, of Iraq for Jackson and Afghanistan for me. So that's going to be a very interesting episode. We'll have a lot to talk about of that first deployment for both of us.
Yeah. And I think that with our first deployments, it's a very important one, because it is something that, we as service members, we probably hold special, significance to our lives, because it did change the way we think, how we, conduct ourselves throughout our lives and stuff like that is it does play a significant role in our lives.
Yeah, that's a good point. We experienced a lot in those first deployments, and it's an eye opener for sure when you're actually there, when you actually arrive and going through the motions. Definitely a different type of lifestyle for sure, right? You're definitely not a civilian. You're entrusted with a weapon and doing the right thing. And, some people make mistakes and bad stuff happens, but, as part of the experience, and we'll get into those details on the next episode,
Yeah.
but definitely check out our shorts from previous episodes. And this episode will have its own shorts. So there'll be a lot of smaller segments within this one episode that you can watch and kind of follow
Yeah.
our journey together.
But I want to ask, before we sign off, I do
Yeah.
want to ask all of the audience out there, when did you deploy? Type in the years. Type in the years of let us know when you were deployed and where. I deployed my first deployment 2005, January 2005 to January 2006 in Sadr City, Iraq. What was yours?
Yeah, mine was Afghanistan in 2006. Most of my time was spent in a small province called Wardak province. So it was a small outpost in the mountains. So that was my primary area in Afghanistan, Wardak province.
Yeah, let us know, because it's a small army or a small military in general. Let us know where you've been. We could have crossed paths.
Yeah, we've met a lot of people, even international, right? International, different militaries from other nations, for sure.
Yes.
So we'll talk about more of that because I have stories, when you meet these other people, other military units, some cool stories. So next episode we'll have some excitement, some stories. I think a little bit for everybody to connect with. So yeah, definitely drop some comments, make it known where you're at, your own experiences. I'm sure you can relate to our journey, and stick with us for the next episode where we'll keep our adventure going.
Yeah. See you later.
All right.